From the United States, Senator Todd Young, season's greetings to NAIFA, Indiana.
Hi, this is Joe Serta, President of NAIFA-Indiana and your host for NAIFA-Indiana This Month, your video newsletter. We normally like to get this to you early in the month, but we wanted to wait so we could include some very important information we gathered at NAIFA's National Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. Your President-elect, Daniel Stallings, your membership chair, Jeff Goralczyk, and I attended some great sessions not only on NAIFA's vision for the future, but how to get there. NAIFA is launching a national campaign to increase our association's profile within the industry and with the general public. If we follow NAIFA's vision and use the tools National is providing us, we will become not only the most effective professional organization in the financial services industry, but the most desirable to be a member of. I came away convinced that if we do what we're supposed to do, everyone in our industry will want to be NAIFA members, and the public will only want to do business with people affiliated with NAIFA. We have a great future, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Even more exciting is how NAIFA National is looking to Indiana for leadership. On the first day, Senator Todd Young was a keynote speaker, and our delegation got a chance to meet with him afterward. On the second day, our Communications Committee Chair, Chris Barnhouse, took to the main stage to outline NAIFA-Indiana's communications programs, and although an earlier speaker running long forced Chris to curtail his comments, NAIFA National asked NAIFA-Indiana to record his full presentation for distribution to the leaders of all chapters. In addition, NAIFA-Indiana was asked to produce a final version of media relations video our Communications Committee produced for inclusion in NAIFA National's training. Speaking of video, they even had our videographer, Andy Barnhouse, come to Washington with us to shoot video of the conference. I couldn't be more proud of the important national role NAIFA-Indiana has assumed. Finally, we were able to meet with Senator Mike Braun to discuss with him the legislative issues that are of interest to our chapter. It was a very busy and fruitful 2 days. You'll hear more about this in future months as we implement the programs we learned about at the National Leadership Conference. December is not only the holiday season, but it is also the end of the tax year. Here with some end of tax year planning tips is Communications Committee member Mindy Avon of Mishawaka. Mindy, welcome to NAIFA-Indiana this month.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Mindy, you run a financial advisory practice. What tips can you share with our members about end of year tax planning?
We all know that tax changes are coming, right? But unfortunately, we don't have any definitive information, but I can tell you what's kind of brewing, and we'll just have to keep our ear to the ground and see what actually kind of shakes out next year. The Build Back Better plan, we call that the BBBA, Build Better Back Act. First of all, they were originally talking about increasing the top individual tax rate. They also were going to increase the top capital gains and dividend tax rate. And they were also going to increase the corporate tax rate. In addition to those changes, they had originally talked about accelerating the estate and gift tax exemption sunset from 2026 to 2022. They had originally suggested that they would include grantor trusts in the grantor's taxable estate, and they were going to eliminate valuation discounts for non-business assets. So that was in the original BBBA, but they've come out with a new edition, and that new edition did not include any of those original pieces. Now, what that means is potentially those pieces will not make it into the final bill. However, we can't assume that because they could come back into play. So again, those were things that were in there originally. Maybe you're not going to be there at the end, but we need to watch carefully. The items, though, that are included currently in the most recent version of the BBBA is a net investment income tax. So what that means is that there would be potentially a 3.8% net investment income tax that would be assessed, basically trading investments, selling a business, and anyone who has an income of $400,000 or more as a single filer, or $500,000 or more of married filing jointly taxable income. So potentially that's a new tax that we'll see. We're also seeing in this new edition of the BBBA a new tax of 5% being imposed on taxpayers' modified adjusted gross income, or their MAGI, in excess of $10 million. So now that does seem like a lot. That's a large income. However, there are people, that we serve that this would affect. The income would be $5 million that it would affect if they were filing separately, and $200,000 if it's a trust or an estate. So definitely could have some issues there. In addition, an extra 3% of tax on any modified adjusted gross income exceeding 25 million, or 12.5 million for people who are filing separately, or $500,000 of trusts and estate assets. So again, these are what would they call a surtax, a tax on top of a tax. And this would be effective in 2022. They're also looking at a new corporate alternative minimum tax. This would impose a 15% alternative minimum tax on financial statement income of corporations in excess of $1 billion. So you can see that a lot of these taxes, they're going after maybe the ultra high income, ultra wealthy. That new corporate alternative minimum tax would go into effect in 2023. Some changes when it comes to retirement plans. Again, this is just proposed. It's not, definite yet, but they included for people who earn $400,000 or more of income per year as a single, or $450,000 as married filing jointly. If someone had a retirement account balance in excess of $10 million, they would be prohibited from making additional contributions to their retirement accounts. And they also have some additional requirements. They would actually be required to distribute or take out 50% of their balance that was over $10 million. So for example, if they had a $15 million account balance, they would be required to distribute $2.5 million, 50% of the balance that's over 10 million. And if they had an aggregate account balances of all retirement plans of over 20 million, they would have to deplete their Roth IRAs. So they a lot of kind of negotiating around these retirement assets and what they would consider to be ultra high net worth or ultra high income. So definitely, and those changes would go into effect in 2022. So definitely this would be next year. Something that many of our NAIFA members have probably done themselves or have advised clients to do was the backdoor Roth, where people who earned more income than allowed them to make a traditional Roth IRA contribution, used non-deductible IRAs, made non-deductible contributions to an IRA, and then they would convert that money over to Roth. That is no longer going to be available. And actually, anyone really doing, no matter what their income is. So Roth conversions could be completely gone as of 2022. So again, we don't know for sure if any of these are going to happen, but we do believe that there will be some, if not all, of these kind of tax situations. And of course, we advise our clients to talk to their tax advisors, talk to their attorneys, just to see, once these laws go into effect, what should they be doing, to prepare and to plan and to maybe avoid some of these tax situations. So keep your ears tuned. We'll see more after the holidays, I'm sure. And back to you, Joe.
Mindy, this sounds like everything is in a state of flux. What should our members do to stay on top of this?
Great question, Joe. For our NAIFA members, the best way to stay on top of these changes would be to subscribe to NAIFA briefs. And then they'll get updates as those NAIFA briefs are sent out, and they can read them. They're short, easy to read, and that way they'll know what's happening and when things do get finalized.
Thank you, Mindy.
Oh, you're welcome, Joe.
And speaking of tips, here with our monthly sales tip is longtime NAIFA-Indiana trustee and Government Relations Committee Chair, Andy Buter.
We wanted to have a good sales tip to finish the old year out and start the new year out better. And it's a very simple one, but a lot of times we forget to do this when we're talking to our clients, and that's checking beneficiaries and beneficiary designations. A lot of policies have been written and a lot of circumstances have changed through the years. Maybe it was a young person, their parents were beneficiaries on a policy, and if we haven't visited it, and maybe they're married, maybe they have a family, a lot of things have changed. Maybe it was a husband and wife, there may have been a separation, there may be a new need for a different primary beneficiary on there. So it's just a good thing to touch base with your clients, both on the policies that you've written and on other policies that they may have with other companies that you haven't had anything to do with. Also along those lines, most workplaces are talking about beneficiary designation changes, but that's a good thing to point out to them as well, because sometimes that gets left out. And obviously, once the death occurs, everything's set in cement. We want to make sure that money's going to the right people when that time and need arises. So that's a very good one. It also gets them thinking about life insurance without being threatening to them. They're taking a look, well, maybe that policy was 100,000, maybe it was 150,000. It's a good chance to say, hey, is that enough? We bought this policy 10 years ago. Lots of things have changed. Maybe you had some life changes. Maybe your family's increased. Maybe your debt load's increased. Your earning power hopefully is increased. So all those things that we use life insurance for, this opens the door to talk to people about changes and potentially writing some more business and helping protect their family and their situation a little bit better. Along with primary beneficiaries, obviously contingent beneficiaries can become important. And a lot of times those are totally overlooked. And we hope that never we have to worry about using a contingent beneficiary. But again, if we do, we want to make sure that we have everything right. So we're about providing peace of mind for people and going through and working and making sure that their money's going to the right folks. Certainly is a good way to give them some peace of mind. Along those lines, also, a lot of people are talking about trusts and doing planning that way. If they do have a trust, has their life insurance been placed in the trust properly? Is there ownership that needs to be changed on it? Is there beneficiaries that need to be changed on it? Is there mailing addresses and things that need to be changed on it? So, and then last but not least, and this, I've been harping this with my people for about 34 years. Do you have a will? And it still amazes me as to how many people say, well, we're going to get around to it, or it's too expensive or whatever. And then you kind of have to lay that out for them. Well, if you don't have a will, your heirs are going to lose a lot of money probably, because you're going to have probate problems. You're going to have lots of extra costs involved. And you want to make sure that a simple paper like that can save so much grief at the time of a loss that we don't want to have a lot of confusion and make it better for your family. So just a couple quick ideas to open some doors and have some good conversations for the rest of this year. And happily 2022 will be the best year you've had in best holiday wishes and wishes for a successful new year.
Thanks, Andy. I hope all our members follow your advice during their annual reviews. This is the last time I will be speaking to all of you as president of NAIFA-Indiana. At the end of this month, I will be stepping down as your board president and into my new role as past president. Before I do, I wanted to give you a brief synopsis of NAIFA-Indiana over the past couple of years and where we are today. 2 years ago, when I began my term as state board president, I had no idea what the next 2 years would bring. I had plans of what initiatives I wanted to pursue during my tenure, but that went out the window when COVID-19 pandemic hit. Luckily, NAIFA-Indiana and the Indiana Society of Financial Service Professionals had previously agreed to partner in a new initiative to form a joint professional development committee and had developed 38 hours of CE curriculum for the year. The problem was how to deliver this training with Indiana being shut down by the pandemic. Thus began our journey to remain relevant to our membership. The pandemic forced us to make significant changes to how we interacted with each other and our membership. We quickly discovered technology and Zoom meetings and how to leverage them to stay connected. We were technological neophytes back then, and mistakes were made. I still remember one of the CE sessions where we tried to connect to an off-site speaker via Zoom, and the system crashed because we later found out that the bandwidth was too narrow. What the heck was bandwidth? What impressed me the most, however, as we scrambled to get Zoom back up over the next half hour, was the patience displayed by our audience of about 50 members as they quietly waited for us to continue. Well, 2 years later, the pandemic is still with us, but we have learned to deal with it and to continue with our programs and activities. In addition, here's a short list of some of the things we also have done. 1, we created a communications committee, originally co-chaired by Andrea Bogart and Chris Barnhouse. This committee is behind all the videos we have sent out. It has allowed us to stay connected with our members during the pandemic and keep you appraised of any upcoming events and activities. In short, it has made us more transparent. This committee has also been recognized by NAIFA National and is considered a model for other chapters to follow. Recently, this committee created a video newsletter called NAIFA-Indiana This Month, which continues to develop material to share with our members. It is a great vehicle for members to get to know one another and their varied practices across the state. 2, another area of note is the startup of a sponsorship committee to engage and partner with Indiana-based financial organizations to help us develop initiatives that will increase business opportunities for our members. To date, we have engaged and partnered with 2 organizations, Ash Brokerage and Fairway Mortgage. Each of these partner organizations has a representative on our board, and we look forward to the initiatives that will come out of this committee. 3, on the legislative front, the Government Relations Committee, led by Andy Buter, has been transitioning to a more proactive role. In 2021, they sponsored 2 bills. A bill to speed up delivery of doctor records, and a bill that allows unused CE credits to be rolled over to the next renewal period. In addition, they also endorsed a bill to transition the Indiana Long-Term Care Insurance Program to Deficit Reduction Act partnership. This would make Indiana the first of the 4 original Robert Wood Johnson partnership states to adopt the more modern DRA partnership that has been fielded successfully in 42 other states. We expect this transition, once approved by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, to enhance options for Hoosiers seeking protection from the risk of long-term care and as well rejuvenate the long-term care market in Indiana. All 3 bills will improve the industry environment for both NAIFA members as well as non-members. Finally, NAIFA-Indiana developed a strategic plan this year that will guide our activities over the next several years. The 3 areas of this plan include activities aimed at membership growth, brand amplification, and member experience. More will be coming out about this plan soon from our incoming president, Daniel Stallings. So to summarize, the past 2 years had forced NAIFA-Indiana to improvise to get through this pandemic. It also forced us to reorganize to be more effective. The silver lining is this reorganization has delivered a great and diverse board, a great staff, and a great incoming president to carry the torch forward. It has been my pleasure to serve you in NAIFA, Indiana as president the past 2 years. I wish you well in the coming year. Of course, the work of our association will go on. We have some great events coming up I'm sure you'll want to participate in. On January 20th at 9 a.m., we'll have our first broadcast CE of the year. Pete Hershen will present an hour on the secondary market for life insurance. February 9th, our Government Relations Committee is organizing one of our premier events, Al Sear Day on the Hill, at the Indiana State House. This year, we're partnering with the National Association of African American Insurance Agents, the Society of Financial Service Professionals, Big I of Indiana, the Insurance Institute of Indiana, and the Indiana Association of Life Insurance Companies to make this the biggest and most diverse day on the Hill ever. We'll hear from some of our key leaders and meet our legislators for lunch in the Capitol. This is a very important event in consolidating positive relationships with our government leaders. You'll certainly want to attend. And on February 17th, we'll have our quarterly half-day CE meeting available in person and via internet. Starting at 8:30 a.m., we'll have 4 hours on tax planning. These are sessions you'll surely want to attend in order to prepare for the upcoming tax season. It has been my pleasure and privilege to serve as your president the past 2 years. We've been through a lot, but the challenges have made us stronger. I'm more convinced than ever that together we can take on anything.